own home. So on the eve of this festival that we all love so much, we want to give you something good. We want to give you something really special because we are here to celebrate Black creatives always. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to kick this off celebrating Black creators and creatives. We're partnering with HBO to also raise up and lift a new documentary they have, Storm Over Brooklyn, and I cannot wait to get into this conversation. So I'm going to introduce the panelists because I don't have long and I have lots of questions, okay? So first and foremost, I want to start with Janet Mock, who I have been fangirling over ever since I met her the first time. Hi, Janet. Janet is a storyteller, a writer, a television host, a director, producer, transgender rights activist. She's published 2 best-selling memoirs about her journey as a trans woman. She has also written and directed for Pose on FX, which we all adore, Politician, and Hollywood, which I'm obsessed with right now. Janet has been nominated for a Golden Globe. She's been nominated for an Emmy. She's won a Peabody, an AFI award, and she is here today, originally from Hawaii. She now resides in New York and LA. Janet Mock, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Nischelle. It's such an honor to be here and to uplift Muta'Ali's beautiful, beautiful documentary.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. All right, now let's get to Rennie. Renee! Rennie is a comedian, actor, dancer, actor, and internet personality who is best known for his videos on Instagram and Vine, which I have been deep diving into and have gotten so many belly laughs from it. I love you, and you're my new obsession. Rennie was also a cast member of Wild 'N Out on MTV, originally from Queens, New York. He began posting these videos on Instagram and Vine, and they just took off. They garnered attention from everyone, to Rihanna, to Diddy, everybody in between, and now he's here to hang with us on this panel today. Rennie, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you.
Did you bring Tyrone with you, or is it just Rennie today?
It's just Rennie today. It's just Rennie today. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rennie, for joining us. Next, I want to welcome Ikenna Mokwe. Sorry, Ikenna. I just asked you, and I'm already messing up. Ikenna is one of the founders of Dope Black Art. It is a platform that works with like-minded businesses and artists to engage directly with the audience. They promote new artists by posting their work that champions Black culture through visual art. I love that. I can't wait to talk to you about all of this as well. So Ikenna, thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
Of course. And last but certainly not least, let's welcome Muta'Ali Muhammad. Muta'Ali is an award-winning film director from Westchester County, New York. His latest documentary, Storm Over Brooklyn, came out yesterday, came out on August 12th. I'm sorry, came out on August 12th. I saw it yesterday. Came out on August 12th. He is determined that his artistic body of work is wholly focused on what he calls love, art, and activism. I love that, and I want to start there. Please welcome Muta'Ali. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me, Nischelle. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you.
Well, we are here, of course, to celebrate, like I said, Black creators and creative in the creative space. But we definitely want to lift up your new documentary on HBO, Storm Over Brooklyn. First things first, first question is, why did you decide to tackle this subject, and why did you want to tell Yusef's story?
Okay, it's a layered question there. 30 years ago, why tell the story? Number one, I want to honor the life of Yusuf Hawkins. He was murdered at the age of 16. Number two, just because the time has gone by doesn't mean what happened doesn't have contemporary significance. Mm-hmm. And number three, the family and friends of Yusuf have been, in my opinion, going through a lot of pain over the years, and they never had a chance to tell the story from their perspective, because during the time they were inwardly going through trauma and not necessarily in a position, either age-wise or emotionally, to tell the story publicly. And now they are, and others were just too damaged by what happened to even broach the subject with their friends and loved ones. And I think it was an opportunity to serve as a avenue that they could use to tell their story. And it wasn't an opportunity. I didn't want to take it as a chance to just retell a story of Black victimization, I take it as a story of honoring what this Black family went through and connecting the storm that existed prior to Yusuf being murdered to today's storm was exciting to me.
When did you start working on this project? I mean, how long have you been digging into it?
In May of 2016 is when Victorious, one of the producers, approached me. He had seen Life's Essentials with Ruby D. He liked the pacing. He liked something about it, and I appreciated that. And I came on board a little bit afterward. I had to do some research first. I was only 10 years old when Yusuf was killed, and I lived in New Rochelle, so that's not Brooklyn. And a 10-year-old mind is not going to absorb the information like even a 16-year-old mind would, let alone someone of the age of Reverend Sharpton back then. So I had to do enough research for me to decide to commit to this project when at that point there was no budget, there wasn't any backing. So that's tough to do. All that work is tough, and I'm not gonna do it unless I'm passionate about it. So I had to do enough research to tell Victorious, I see the value in telling the story, and I see its contemporary relevance in this particular way, and hey, let's do this. So that took a little bit of time, and it wasn't until the summer 2017 that I crossed paths with the initiative that ABFF did with Lightbox, the documentary initiative, and I applied to that, and things have been going well since then.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that it actually leads me to a question that I want to pose to everyone, because we are here again celebrating Black creators, and that is something that ABFF has been doing for so long. So Janet, I want to move over to you. Like having something like the American Black Film Festival, what does that mean to Black creators, especially in this landscape, in this industry?
I think number one, what it really does powerfully is that it centers our stories and the images and the visions of ourselves that we create. I think that so often, specifically working in this industry, just to be seen by gatekeepers, just to be invited into the room, to even just see our work is so often just rife with obstacles, right? We know all that systemic stuff. Like just today, the New York Times published a piece about the Criterion Collection and how there's only 4 Black directors in that entire body of a library that says what is worthy of watching in cinema. And the fact that so many of our classics are not in there. Not one, film from Barry Jenkins, not even, the beautiful story of Daughters of the Dust is not in there. There's so many things that are overlooked in this. And so I think that what ABFF does is that it, number one, affirms us. It lets us see us the way that we see ourselves. And then at the same time, it brings the people behind the scenes out front, the creatives behind the scenes, to actually, give their projects voice and just speak of the whole legacy of Black cinema.
I want to go through everyone and ask just about your origin story. So Rennie, I'm going to move over to you because I just want to know, I know you started posting these videos on Instagram, but was it a thing where you just, you were always funny? You just always had that spirit? How did you know that you were going to turn into a Black creative?
Even literally from diaper days or just toddlers or just single digit ages where I would watch BET Awards, MTV, this, that, movies, TV shows. It's just always been in my blood to entertain, whether it's singing, acting, comedy. But what happened way before the videos even began was I pursued a bachelor's in theater in Brooklyn College, and I got a bachelor's in theater at the BFA department. And in the midst of that, I was posting the videos and creating content and simultaneously attending classes and acting and everything, and then also building my name outside of that. So they actually worked together, you know. They actually like came to a point where they both, you know, they sharpened each other.
Mhm. What did social media do for your career? Because so many of us have gone, you know, that other traditional route. I don't want to date myself, but, you know, social media is still a bit foreign to me. But for some people, it really has fueled them into the next level. What has it done for you?
Right. So apart from just bunches of sponsored deals and brand deals and stuff like that, I just cast my first role in a project called Fruits of the Heart in January with, you know, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Clifton Powell, and a few other people, right? And before that, in November, I had like a small role in Dutch, and that was something that happened like right before 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And also outside of that, you know, as far as like when I first started, I was going to colleges and hosting college events because I had like a huge part of my audience is college kids,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, 18 to 20 something. And at least when I first started off, now it's even more diverse. But yeah, it's definitely done a good number of things so far that I'm blessed to have accomplished so far at this point, you know. But that's necessarily what it was. It was just, it turned into a bridge, right? So social media turned into a bridge. And for me to get more into that space of professional film feature, you know, projects, you know. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on that first real role that you got. I can't wait to see what comes next. Ikenna, I want to move to you because thinking about like, I mean, art is the ultimate for me creative space. But being a Black artist and really like diving into that world, I think is so foreign to everyone because I mean, there's little of us in the industry in Hollywood in the creative space, but I think even less in art. So why did you decide, or what brought you there to that space?
Okay, so my business partner, Sebastian, who's the main curator on the Dope Black Art account, he found it difficult to find artwork that depicted the Black culture online, and you know he searched and searched, and he just found it very difficult to find it all in one place. So he decided to create the Instagram account Dope Black Art, just to post work that he loved, and through doing that, he discovered that there were so many other people around the world who, you know, wanted to see Black art. And I came along, I think Sebastian created the account in 2015, and I loved what he was doing. You know, we're both creatives ourselves, so we're both film directors. Yeah, I loved what he was doing, and I decided to jump aboard. Yeah, it's important for us to tell our stories, to share our work through whether it's visual art, whether it's music or whatever. But in particular, like you said, visual art, we don't have enough representation with it. Yeah.
Muta'Ali, I want to come back to you because you mentioned the fact that you were 10 when Yusuf Hawkins was murdered. What did doing this project and really taking a deep dive into what happened back, I think it was 89, right? In 1989. What did that do to you personally? What did you take away from it personally?
When I think about that, it's really just the emotional journey that a storyteller that I experienced, sitting across from Miss Diane Hawkins, sitting across from Luther Sylvester, Yusuf's friend, who was right there. There's an emotional journey that takes place when you talk with someone about deeply rooted pain for 2-3 hours at a time. And it's particularly unique when you don't know them personally. They're trusting you with a camera recording right in their face, trusting you to not harm them, to be delicate, but they know that you have to do sort of a procedure, you know. And I think that the journey, you know, it wasn't one where I was shocked about anything. It was one that stirred up a lot of, I guess, compassion and a little bit of sadness in the direction of the Hawkins family. And that was significant. But in terms of the actual process of the filmmaking, emotionally, I was mostly attached to the group of us who were making this film, you know, and so that's a whole different thing. I was excited though to see that the plan that I had to talk about the effects that politicians had, the effects that activists had, the effects that attorneys had on the home life of the Hawkins family. I feel it came through in the story. And I feel like there are a lot of instances within Storm Over Brooklyn where you can pinpoint statements that align up in such an uncanny way to statements from influential figures who we see today. It happened just before an election, you know, and a lot of the tragedies that have taken place this year are happening just before an election. You have political leaders who feel as if it's important for them to convince their constituents that racism is not a problem, and that's 89 and that's now. You have activism that is requiring persistence. You know, in Storm Over Brooklyn, one of the most striking things is to see how the Hawkins family, along with Reverend Sharpton, marched directly through Bensonhurst from August 89 to January 91. And I'm like, my goodness, I've gone through stages in my life where I kind of was critical of the idea of marching and the effectiveness of it. But when you march directly in the neighborhood that is somewhat culpable, you can affect change. And when you do so for a long time, you can affect change. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing for me to learn. And I think that those strategies are being applied today in situations like trying to get the killers of Breonna Taylor arrested, you know, and certain things were pretty striking. And I'm like, okay, Minister Farrakhan, he in the film makes, I think, a fantastic speech at Yusuf's funeral. And he made a speech in July. There's so many uncanny connections to the present day that happened. But the most striking emotional part of creating Storm Over Brooklyn was actually sitting in front of Yusuf's family and friends and speaking with them, because that's the most, I think, the part where you have to be most delicate and most careful, and you are affecting directly people's trauma in their lives.
Janet, you know, you really know what it's like to turn pain into purpose, which I feel like is what you have been doing in your creative space and in making, you know, this really beautiful pieces. Just talk about like where your journey came through, and do you feel like it is, I'm trying to look for the right word, like is it your duty to tell stories of the LGBTQ plus community as well? Or is that something to where you can dig deep into that because that's what you know and that's what you live?
You know, I think there is a great conversation to be had about the, you know, possibilities that are extended to Black artists to tell stories, not just of the self, but beyond the self, and also thinking about the future and what are our visions for the future. I think for me, I take it as a personal responsibility just because, you know, I have to go back to when I first started writing. When I wrote my first book in 2014, there was no account of Black trans life in literature at all. And what was important for me, I am a Black person first, right? Not that anything is of priority, but as a Black trans woman, it's important for me to ensure that my sisters and siblings are all encompassed in the tapestry of Black life, right? And so for me, I have a deep responsibility for telling the stories of my community, which of course will always center trans and queer characters, but we live in Black neighborhoods, right? I grew up with a Black grandmother, a Black father, you know, Black siblings, Black cousins. I grew up in neighborhoods where we were ravaged, you know, specifically in Oakland in the early 90s, ravaged by, you know, crack cocaine and the epidemic of that, and that the irresponsibility of politicians, in the same way that in Muta'Ali's piece, you know, there was a lack of responsibility, just like today with Breonna Taylor, just like with George Floyd, just like with Ahmaud Arbery and Tony McDade as well. And so for me, the short answer is yes, I'm always going to ride hard for telling the stories of my people. And I find that it is a responsibility to ensure that our people are not forgotten, that those who have fallen, that we still carry them with us, that they influence us every single day, that we speak their names, and that we tell their stories, and also the people left behind, right? And that's what I love so much about Storm Over Brooklyn is you get to see the pain of Ms. Hawkins.
Absolutely.
Talking about losing her 16-year-old. Like, you have to reframe that. Like, this is not a soundbite. This is not a news story that went on for a few years in New York City. This was a family that was ravaged because of this, you know, racist act that eliminated a Black being, a person, someone's son, someone's sibling from this earth.
Let me ask you this, because you know, we've all consumed so much over the last few months, and I was reading something the other day. I don't like to generalize, but I was reading something the other day, and it was a piece that was done by a Black creative, and they said something. They said, white people are more comfortable with Black sadness than Black joy. And that sat with me as a creative, because you think about, when I think about when I'm most creative, I'm drawing from a place of joy, and I'm drawing from a place of like love. But do you think that's true? Do you think, and Janet, I'll go to you, but then I also want to go to Rennie, because you do a lot of like comedy and those type of pieces. So Janet, I want to ask you that. What do you think about that?
I think Black joy, Black loss, Black trauma, Black triumph, all of it has to be told, right? And so for me, you know, the number one soundbite we hear, at least in the States, is that Black trans women are being killed, right? That Black trans women are under attack. And in that sense too, it follows a legacy of Black people, right? Black women and Black men being under attack from state violence. And so for me, I think it's essential that we tell that story and contextualize it. But I think that what we have to do is tell the stories of the person, right? What were their hopes and their dreams before they became this symbol or this victim, right? And so I have no interest in deeply only centering Black trauma, but I think it's important to help with the payoff of why we're so resilient and where the joy comes from, and why our joy and our creations are essential to our survival, to creating and leaving something for, you know, young Black people to see themselves and to want to dream and have greater visions. But yeah, I live in the same space of where, you know, I don't want, you know, on Pose, for example, Black trans girls just being victims of violence or death, but also what are their dreams? What are they hoping for? What are they reaching for? Who love them? Who are they surrounded by? Who are they?
Rennie?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like definitely. To go back to your question though, if you could go, because I was just so caught up in Jeanette's response, but if you could just do
the question again. I was reading a piece the other day, and it was by a Black creative, and they were talking about the fact that they believe that white people are more comfortable with Black sadness than Black joy. They're more comfortable seeing that. They're more comfortable consuming that. And not just, and I guess I took it all encompassing as, and just thinking about like shows that are more popular. Like, you don't get to see much greenlit about Black love stories and Black joy. Like, you'll see other stories. You'll see slave stories that are greenlit, those things about struggle. and strife, but the other stories don't appeal as much. And so that was what I got out of it and I was sitting with. So I'm just wondering, as a Black creative that sits in the comedy space, how you feel about that.
Yeah, so with that, I feel like that there's definitely some truth to that for sure. But also, again, similar to what Janelle, to piggyback off of that as well, it's important to also show the actual character and who we are as people before the pain, and like the stuff that we are able to accomplish and like conquer, you know, aside from the burdens or like the I would say the tragedies that happened to our lineage along the way, right? You know, and for me personally, I love to like in my content, I feel I love to highlight all of the beauty that I see in my people. You know, all like I love to have put a sense of pride, like put pride stamps on the stuff that make us who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of you know feeling shameful or like being shameful of where you come from or how your people came about, what your people had to overcome, you know. So I definitely feel like there's a strength in authenticity, you know, and the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not just one thing. It's not just one-sided. It's a colorful palette of I would say, you know, a beautiful disaster.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Muta'Ali, I actually want to pose this to you too, because I kind of am interested in hearing what everybody thinks about that.
Well, I think it's an interesting statement to make. And I would think that if there are white people who feel less comfortable with seeing stories that involve happiness within Black community, love stories, etc., it might be something that disturbs a part of them that has oversimplified the black experience. And so from a distance, it might be easy to say, Black people have gone through this, they're angry about this has been done to them, and they're upset and want for a lot of things. Okay, you could look at it and say that, but then all of a sudden, if you see a love story that has nothing to do with any of that, it forces you to consider that, okay, there may be many other dimensions to Black people that I've never had been forced to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might make someone uncomfortable at first, because something that we like to do as humans is simplify things and put labels on things. And then all of a sudden that label has other comments on it, and it becomes three-dimensional, and that forces me to, I don't like the word, but humanize Black people, whereas before Black people were one thing. And maybe getting past that discomfort is something that could be healthy. And I think that as Black creatives, our ability to show the dimensions that we have as human beings, show the three dimensions of a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of the most beautiful stories about Black people have been stories of people like if you take Barry Jenkins' Moonlight, you could say, oh, it's a story about how a drug dealer did this and that. That's like a one-dimensional way of looking at it. And maybe it takes a Black creative to have the skills, the drive, and the wherewithal to tell a story that can be looked upon as, oh, there's a stereotypical character, but no, this is a beautiful rainbow of a human being, and I know how to show you that, and I know how to show you that skillfully. So that might make someone who oversimplifies the Black experience uncomfortable, but eventually I think it's a healthy thing. But that's a great observation, though. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't either. It just sat with me. I was just reading it, it sat with me, and I said, I want to ask. I knew I was going to do this panel with you guys, and I just thought, like, I wonder what people who are really immersed in the space think about that? Ikenna, do you want to add anything to
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think for decades, you know, we've seen the same image of Black people in the media, and I'm not. I think there's some truth to it, and I'm not surprised that they are uncomfortable with it because they're just unfamiliar with it, and that's the reason why it's you know, partly our job to keep sharing our stories so they eventually become uncomfortable with it. Before it was, there's so many things that were uncomfortable before, and they're becoming more comfortable because we're speaking up and sharing our stories.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the, again, I'm going to stay with you. What are some of the challenges that you have encountered being a creator of color, a Black creator?
A Black creator, so I'll speak for my personal work. As a director, I think one of the biggest challenges is being underestimated, I would say. So there's a scenario that keeps repeating itself over and over again. So as a director, you're meant to be the person who's on charge on the set. And often, you know, there's some contributors that I work with who I won't necessarily meet beforehand. They won't know that I'm Black, right? But my name says that I'm Black anyway. So the day comes of the shoot and I'm with my DOP who sometimes is white. And whenever my DOP is white, we say hello, we speak or whatever. This person I've been speaking with for a period of time, you already know my name, right? You already know that I'm director. We're speaking and the questions keep being directed to my DOP, who's a white guy. And I'm like, yep, I'm the person in charge, so speak to me. So I think it's almost like I know you're in charge, but I can't accept it. And yeah, there's loads of situations where I feel like that it just keeps happening, that underestimating I'd call it underestimating.
I want to dig a little deeper in that. Janet, I want to go to you. Pick up, where Ikenna left off. What about you? Some of the challenges you've been facing?
Oh God, that experience that he just shared, I know that experience, being a Black person on sets that are largely white. I'm a part of a committee right now that's trying to shift and change and come up with new solutions for ensuring that we can have more department heads of color within our unions, so that when a Black person is at the helm of a feature or a documentary or any kind of story, that you can have a plethora of talent to choose from, so that we're not only reliant on having white DPs or white department heads in hair, makeup, costumes, production design, all of the things. And so, I've had that same isolating experience, and then also doubly because also being a woman. So women often are not given the helm, and Black people aren't either. And so when you're encompassing of both of those identities, and at times people don't really read my transness, but still, that sense of who's in charge. It's like the image of who we say is in charge, or who's in the director's chair, the image that has been told throughout Hollywood and through the Criterion Collection and everyone's work that's valued is often white men. And so it takes a rethinking, I think, at times. And so for me, I think I'm looking for solutions to shift that paradigm, because it's a system, like all of the spaces where we have to navigate in, whether that's, this police state, whether that's the education and healthcare systems, even within Hollywood, it's who are the gatekeepers, who's blocking, Black folk from coming into these spaces. If we're 13% of the population, all the studios should have 13% Black folk. All the, Black folk should have green light credit, all of that kind of stuff. And so for me, I'm deeply invested in that, specifically during this space of COVID and, all of the uprisings and transformative times we're in.
Muta'Ali, I want to give you an opportunity to weigh in on this as well.
I'm gonna need you to repeat the question now.
Some of the challenges that you faced and continue, I think, to face as a creator of color.
Wow. I mean, the real answer I probably wouldn't want to totally dive into, but one of the challenges I think is translation. cultural translation is what I was faced with Storm Over Brooklyn. But I think I don't know if it's normal or not, because I'm still, this is my first time being able to direct on this level with a studio like Lightbox and with HBO. And with the talent there weren't, other than me and my producing partners, there weren't many Black people. But you know, I walk in and I assume sometimes things that might be more challenging than the reality. I was lucky enough to have a great editor, Jeremy Seifer, and we're from two different cultures, but directors and editors, you got to work together like that. And so it was a challenge to translate what I was thinking, and I feel like there's a lot of symbolism within Storm Over Brooklyn and a lot of subtext.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, unlike what I expected, you know, and I feel a little bit of a way that I didn't expect it. He was ready and receptive to take my word for it. And he was of the mind that, and he trusted me. And once I put in the effort, though, it took a lot of effort, especially because I was directing from New York and he was editing from LA. For me to put into words exactly why this statement needs to be here and why we need to have this sort of beat here. But it took effort on his side to unpack it, understand the backstory, understand the subtext. And I think that, yeah, it was a challenge, right? And that challenge might not be there. I mean, to jump, I got a Black therapist, right? And I've had other therapists, right? But when I talk to my Black male therapist, I don't have to explain everything that I would have to somebody else. So
I hear you.
With an editor, this was tougher, and that took time. But through the translation, I understood better what I was trying to say. And his questions about what I was trying to say showed me a new perspective. And that new perspective was one of someone who I would like the film to reach. So I learned from that translation.
Hey, Muta'Ali, remember when I asked you what you learned from this process?
Yeah.
You just gave me the most beautiful answer of what you learned about yourself from this process.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm, yeah.
That's what you meant? I gotcha. Hey, yeah. Rennie, why don't you jump in here?
Yeah, so like as far as content like on social media goes, and at least that's just at least in that sector right now. I feel like one of the challenges, at least, especially like again these past few months, right, is getting in particular in comedy, getting that message out to the audience about the situation at hand, as far as justice for like many names.
Right.
And the general topic of it is a challenge for me, right? Because I feel like people only want distractions on social media, right? They only want to be like, well, like for the most part, people want to be drifted away. They want it to, you know, they want some time off, a distraction.
Yeah, the fantasy world, of course.
Instead, I'm constantly finding ways to like bring the topic at hand into the content, but still have it, you know, be, you know, of course, popular and everything, you know. So that's definitely, I would say, one of the challenges for me as a Black content creator that, you know, that cares deeply about, you know, what's going on.
I want to talk a little bit about joy, because I find for myself, I am the most creative when I am the most joyful. This last few months, COVID one thing, but facing a lot of issues in our community, and, you know, things that have happened to me myself, and just feeling heartbroken in a lot of ways has left me feeling not as creative. So when you're in a state like we're in right now, and I don't know if you all feel that same way, that you're the most creative when you're the most joyful, how do you tap into that joy, and how do you tap into that creative side when we're in such a state of heartbreak and kind of despair? Janet, I'm gonna start with you.
For me, it's always a process. I think that as, I would identify as a writer first, maybe before I even would identify as a director or producer. And so for me, I tend to always find peace and meaning and understanding when I go to the page. And so I found myself in a really strange space. I think when we got shut down, so I was directing the season 3 premiere of Pose when we got shut down in New York, and I came back to LA, and I was like, okay, so we'll just have a few weeks off, and then you kind of see it keeps going, and we shoot in the Bronx. And then I started hearing stories about, health disparities and what's happening in the Bronx, and how folk there are just dying, no medical attention, no ambulances, no 911 responses, nothing, right? And so that was like my first wave of like, oh, this is real. Like what's going on is real, And then we were hit with, Ahmaud Arbery running and being attacked and killed, right? Then we saw the video of George Floyd. And then, Breonna Taylor comes back, and you hear more about recentering of her story and getting justice for her, and the uprisings and all this stuff that's happening. And at this point, I am deeply connected to social media. I'm not creating anything. I'm not writing the process. I am just literally consuming all of this, thinking about what I'm feeling, where are my people at, how are they feeling? I think I was in just a lot of space of trying to understand, trying to heal and check in on my folk, that there was no creative outlet at that point. And I think similar to Rennie, I was able to use my social media to educate allies, specifically white folk who were not understanding, people that I've worked on sets with over the last 3 years, people who've edited my books and all of that stuff, and try to use my space as a space of education and amplifying of the activists on the ground. But in terms of creations, I didn't get back to writing again until maybe about 6 weeks ago. And in that, it made my work more urgent. It made my work more specific. I leaned further into my Blackness, further into my transness, further into spaces of lack and growing up in broken communities and under-resourced schools. I leaned more into that stuff because still this country, people who are looking and watching are still not getting it fully. And I think that there's a space that's cracking open, and I think there's an opportunity for us to come in. And I think for me as someone, one of the things of being a Black creative, I think sometimes is that you become a representative of your community in white spaces.
Yes.
And
Very
so,
much so.
I am pushing my coworkers and colleagues and peers, white folk, to listen up, this is what we need. On my next project, I am not gonna have a bunch of white department heads. I'm not gonna do that again. So how are we going to make sure that we can get more people, my people, into these unions, into these systems? And so that's where I'm concentrating. So I find that I'm creative almost as a producer. And so in that way, that's been interesting to have that come out in this moment.
Muta'Ali, how about you?
Well,
How do you find joy when we're in a joyless state in a lot of ways?
Usually despair will force me to find what I need. But when COVID hit, we were supposed to premiere Tribeca. So I was a little bit hurt when I realized that wasn't gonna happen. I had to get over it because everything was canceled, I soon realized. And then I took the opportunity to focus on homework, things that I've been putting off for years, boring stuff like archiving hard drives that I've been building up, and I took the time to get into my hobbies like robotics and electronics. I learned 3D animation software because I was always into that. So I was kind of trying to take care of part of me that I had been neglecting. And this is before a lot of the murders. And then after murders kept coming through my phone, I started to not be able to focus on those hobbies. I did enjoy rebuilding and having a warmer connection with my family though during COVID, connecting during Zoom and all this stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
me too.
afterward, I was consumed with rage and anger and a sense of purposelessness and wanting to find how I can be helpful when I did not feel empowered. And I felt I couldn't watch the George Floyd video, the whole thing. I watched 20 seconds, enough to know what I was about to watch, But it's like on a global scale, a strong looking Black man is totally destroyed, calmly. And as a Black man and other Black men who I knew, we were like, ooh, we felt so powerless and purposeless. So I tried to do a couple things, and one of the things I built, ordered some lights, and I built this setup, and my plan was to do videos that focused on Black-owned businesses, because I could do that from home, and I felt everyone's home, and everyone can buy things online because we pretty much have to. So all these Black-owned businesses could get a lot of our attention now. So maybe if I can do some videos that'll put me back in my space and it could help Black people. So I was just trying to think of anything, and I did a little bit, but I didn't do as much as I had planned on doing. And then HBO let me know we're sticking to the release date. The release date was August. So that kind of turned some lights back on in me.
Gotcha. Ikenna, how about you?
I would say before COVID hit and before the George Floyd video came out, I was very focused on doing work for other people. And a lot of the work that I do it doesn't have anything to do with Black people or our community at all. And then COVID hit and George Floyd hit. All my work disappeared, and then the anger and rage, just like Muta'Ali said, just hit me. And I remember just sitting here watching the video, and I started crying. I started bawling. I couldn't control. I didn't know I had these many tears inside me, and I was just crying uncontrollably. And my fiance came and saw me. She's never seen this side to me before. But what it made me do, what all that pain made me do, is focus on dope Black art, actually. For Sebastian and I, we did it in our spare time, and I would say recently we've put a lot more effort into it. It's allowed us to focus on building the art community. So we've gone into turbo mode, and a lot has come of us being allowed to focus more on this. And I would say that, a lot of inspiration came from Instagram. I mean, although a lot of pain came from browsing social media, a lot of inspiration came from it as well, to be able to see all these artists and their way of communicating their pain in so many different ways, in so many different visual ways. And that for me was quite inspiring and just gave me energy. Another thing is, it made me focus on my family. I spent a lot more time with my daughters, and that's me.
Well, that's definitely a place to find joy. Rennie, how about you? How do you tap into joy, and where do you find it when we're in a joyless state?
Right. Also, just to piggyback, I also was receiving inspiration from other creators as well, which I'm very thankful of. That's like one of the dopest parts as far as support, in your field goes. So like to see other people speaking up and voicing how they feel about the situation and finding creative ways to bring that message to the masses, that got me riled up. And finding joy as far as creating, I actually lean more into what's not causing me joy, so I can create about that. That finds me joy. So I actually go, I go inwards, and try to figure that out as far as creativity goes. But I was definitely like more so, I would say also sitting down and taking it all in at first, really like taking in everything that was going on and researching and looking at articles, this and that, and keeping up to date with sorry, it was a low battery sign. We're good though. We're good.
That's all right. That's all right.
No, yeah, we good. And keeping up to date with everything that was going on, you know, as everything was unfolding. And then lastly, I was also definitely a big, you know, I was all for using my voice as far as that goes too. So I was, you know, posting, you know, I had people go under my posts with comments like for their Black businesses, and had like, you know, thousands of comments of people that you know have Black businesses, and tagging them, and you know having, you know, giving exposure to what's gonna help, you know. So that was another thing too, giving as much exposure as I can with the platform that I have and that I built to help the situation, you know, for people that look like me, simply.
Muta'Ali, I want to circle back to you because when I introduced you, you said that one of the things I read was your artistic body of work is wholly focused on love, art, and activism. Mm-hmm. Just talk to me about that and how those three work in harmony with you.
Well, I think they're kind of markers and little check boxes. So when I think of a project I'd like to take on, I like to do it, see if I can do it out of love. I like to be very aggressive and confrontational, but if I can do it out of love, then I'll check off that box. And artistically, you know, obviously we want to create something that's intriguing, so the art is there. And I like the art that I create to have some relevance to the human experience now, and not necessarily force anyone to do anything, but allow someone to see a new perspective. But those three words, love, art, and activism, came from a process that I went through when I did Life's Essentials with Ruby D, the piece about my grandmother, Ruby D. And what I did when putting that together was I put on the board all of the things that I love and admire about her. And I put on the board all the things that I felt a deficit in. And I wanted the conflict in the intergenerational story to exist between her values and my deficits. And when I was talking with my mother, Dr. Ikenna Mokwe, I explained to her, okay, I got, you know, fatherhood, because, you know, grandpa is in there. I got a long-lasting marriage. That was back when it was, the subject matter was strong Black woman, but Grand Ruby didn't appreciate that. So like that didn't work. There were several subjects in there that I wanted to address. And my mother was like, nah, you got to boil this down to three things. Like, I see you got this, 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 and this. You need to boil it down. What do we have? And she said, you got love, art, and activism. And so those three words came from sort of contrasting myself with her values. And I felt that they applied also to her generation's values and my values. And so when I say I'd like to do things that embody love, art, and activism, it's sort of a takeaway from the process that I championed with my grandmother before she passed away. And so ideally, whatever I do in the future will be able to check off those three boxes. I'm doing them out of love, and that they have an activist component, and it's artistic.
Well, that is spectacular. And I hope that all of you in here today have felt loved and felt lifted, because I've really enjoyed this conversation, and really enjoyed actually just even talking to other creatives and hearing you. And that fuels, you know, people too, just kind of listening to other people's journeys and their stories and the challenges they're facing and the wins that they're having. And Muta'Ali, you are having a big one right now. Storm Over Brooklyn did premiere already on HBO, but it's on all weekend. I checked, so you can catch it all weekend. After you go to some of the virtual ABFF online edition, then you can also pop over to HBO and watch Storm Over Brooklyn. And Janet, what's next for you when you get back to work? Are you going back to directing Pose?
Yes, going back to directing Pose, and right now I'm prepping my first feature, which will be on Sammy Davis Jr. starring Jeremy Pope. So we're very excited. Yeah.
Love it. I get to see Archie. I'm just going to call him Archie until because I just love him. I just love him. Ikenna, how about you? What's on the forefront for you?
So we're developing art programs for young people, actually. So we're working on animation workshops and pottery workshops for young people. And yeah, that's the next thing we're doing.
I love it. And Rennie?
Self-tape, 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 self-tape.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. Well, everybody, please keep swinging away out there because your perspectives are very necessary and very needed, and we appreciate them for sure. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in with us today. Again, I am Nischelle Turner from Entertainment Tonight, but this is American Black Film Festival's Black Creators and Creatives, powered by HBO. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Y'all are easy. Y'all are easy. I have to do nothing.
That was great. That was really good. Really,
I appreciate you all.
Thank you so much.
And Muta'Ali, it is, Janet's right. It's so beautiful. Congratulations to you. So beautiful.
Thank you so much.
So beautiful.
So beautiful.
So
thank you all so much for doing this. This was so great. We're excited to keep it up and show it.
Well, I appreciate it.
Definitely do that. Thank you. So I just want to ask if Janet and Muta'Ali can hang tight for a couple of seconds. We want to just get a drop. Muta'Ali's film, just so you guys know, this film is also showing at ABFF next week on Thursday, the 28th. So please tune in to ABFF if you can. Everything will be shown on abff.com, all the films, all the panels, everything. So so really excited about that. And this is our first virtual experience like everybody else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you. So thank you, Nischelle.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rennie. Appreciate
Thanks
you
for having
guys.
us.
Thank you, Nischelle. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much,
Renee.
Janet. You know I adore you. Love you, love you, love you. I have a quick, hey, Ikenna, can I connect with you? Because I just want to, I know a dope Black artist who's not well known, and I just kind of want to connect if I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to do you want to do it now? Do you want to send your information?
If I don't know if because I don't want to like take up time and say, hey, what's your if there's somebody who
Ikenna, if you can send your information, Danielle, then I'll get it to you, Nischelle.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great one.
You too.
Okay, Jen and Muta'Ali, if you guys can hang tight for us.
So thanks everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone else. So get a couple of drops from you, and Melanie, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, so first of all, just want to start by saying, Janet, thank you so much. We wanted to just ask you if you'd be open to just doing a quick drop for ABFF, which is just basically kind of saying like how you're excited to watch the stories that are going to be shown on the ABFF over the next few days. Are you comfortable doing that? So it's, hi, I'm Janet Mock. Hi, I'm Janet Mock. I'm excited to watch new, beautiful Black films at the ABFF 2020.
Okay.
Okay.
So the rest of us, we're actually going to go. Sorry, Janet.
We're going to go off camera.
Yeah, we're going to go off camera.
Take your camera off, or we could do it for you.
I got it.
Okay, and Janet, I'll give you look beautiful. No extra shine. It's looking great. We'll count you in like a 3, 2, 1, and then when I do that, just allow a couple of beats before you start speaking. So it's however you want to say it in your own words. But hi, I'm Janet Mock. I'm excited to watch new, beautiful Black films at the 2020 ABFF. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Janet Mock, and I'm so excited to see this year's lineup of Black visionaries and films and all of the great Blackness at this year's ABFF Festival.
You're a pro.
That was perfect.
Can we do one more take for safety? Just because I had on my end, I was glitching. Nicole, were you seeing freezing during that?
Just slightly, but you can do
it. Let's do one more for safety if you don't mind.
3,
2, 1.
Hi, I'm Janet Mock, and I am so excited to see the Black visionary gorgeousness on these screens at ABFF.
Thanks, Janet.
That was great, Janet. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Best wishes to you, and stay well. And
thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's really nice.
And
really
congrats, Muta'Ali. Your film is so beautiful, and I can't see what you have coming next.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Can you hear me? Thank you.
We can hear you. And Janet, it's really nice to meet you. And we hope we can invite you to the 2021 ABFF, which hopefully might be in person in Miami next year.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Have a great festival.
Thanks. Bye. Okay, Muta'Ali.
Muta, so yours will be simple, like, hi, I'm Muta'Ali. I'm the director of Yusuf Hawkins, Storm of Brooklyn. My film will be showing at the ABFF on Thursday, August 28th at, it's 8 p.m. if I'm not mistaken.
It is. It's at 8 p.m. August 28th.
8 p.m. I hope you'll join me there, and I'll be on IG Live afterwards. However you want to say that. I know that was a lot, but you got it.
A snippet of that.
Okay, we're coming off camera. Okay, I'm going to count you in the same way I did Janet, and then just allow a couple of seconds before you start speaking. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Muta'Ali. My films, Yusuf Hawkins, Storm Over Brooklyn, will be screaming. See?
It is screaming. It's screaming at everybody, and everybody's screaming at it. I had
Thursday, August 28th at 8 p.m. Where?
On abff.com.
On abff.com. Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Muta'Ali. My film, Yusuf Hawkins, Storm Over Brooklyn, will be screening on Thursday, August 28th at 8 p.m. on abff.com. I hope you enjoy it. I'll be on there afterward to talk with you live.
Perfect. There was a slight glitch, Nischelle, at the beginning. How did that look for you?
Yeah, it looked okay. If we can just do one more, that'd be great.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Muta'Ali. My film, Yusuf Hawkins, Storm Over Brooklyn, will be screening at ABFF on Thursday, August 28th at 8 p.m. Just go to abff.com. I'll be there to speak with you live after the show.
Muta, you're getting really professional at this.
Thank you.
That was good. That was good. Yeah,
all this practice, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I've been loving
all
the.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah.
I've been loving all the great comments about the film. Have you been seeing them? And I got mad people text me like, oh, I'm so furious right now. This is just making me so mad.
Muta'Ali, you know, it's not funny in any way, but the timing of the film, you know, is so perfect that, you know, it just, if all this hadn't happened, you know, who knows, but the timing is so perfect. And it's such a story that was necessary to be told. So I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you submitted. I'm glad that this is happening.
Thank you for all of your support throughout the whole process. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care, y'all.
All right. Bye.